You looking at me like you really hate me. Would you be prepared to move there? Because it's terribly for us to sort of have a great big white space of nobody, you there and you seeing part of us. Can you be bothered to do that? To fill the white? Hey? Is it the digital divide? Okay. Thank you, truly. I mean, unless you're really going to run off to the shops or in search of schnapps, you are a start. Here, don't go back, don't go up too far. Because it is the tough slot, and it's nice to feel that you're with us, to be honest. And my God, you've been the most generous people to move. Normally, that's why I said, please don't look at me like I'm poo on your shoe, because mostly people do when I ask that question, truly. So, thank you. Come in, welcome, because we're about to start very soon. I don't know who gives me the go. Come in, Phil Smith. Thank you, sir. Stay, you. Oh, yes. Yeah. Great. Come. Join us over here. Do not stop over there, good people. No. The people who've just walked in, hello? No, you're less oblivious now. Do you mind coming over here? Would you be so kind? Come over here, ladies and gents, because it's much nicer if you stick with us in the middle. Please don't hide. You can go a bit up there, that's all right, but just broadly here. Where is my primary commission person to give me the okay? I feel like we have a code, like baseball. Are we okay? Can we go? Okay, fantastic. Are we okay, the technicians? Excellent. That's what, sorry? That's what they promised to me. They are fine. They promised they are fine, did they? I don't know. Trust. Trust is a big word we're having in this whole thing. So, first of all, you know this, are your phones off? Can you please make sure that they are? That's the most critical, or on silent. And go on, just for my own amusement, in all senses of the word, who has tweeted? Oh, and you actually folded your arms there, sir, like, don't ask me about tweeting. Not going. Anyone retweeted? Oh, God, and we're talking about, what is it? Oh, look, the digital citizen. Oh, well, there you go. So, just making a point there. Ladies and gentlemen, do come over and join us over here. Don't isolate yourselves. Join. There is no digital divide. Okay. Esteemed speakers, ladies and gentlemen, very, very warm welcome to this 90-minute parallel session on the digital citizen. Very quick bit of context before we get into the details, because we have 7 splendid speakers. This is a really, really big panel. We know, because we've been having these conversations since the beginning of yesterday, digital transformation is opening up so many opportunities, so many new services. We were just talking about it in the last session in Next Gen Internet, and these are opportunities for citizens, for industry, for public administrations. And just to reference that, the Tallinn Digital Summit and the discussions from that were reaffirmed in the Tallinn Ministerial Declaration on e-Government, highlighted the need to bring government and the public sector into the digital age to improve the interaction of both with citizens and, of course, with business. So public services have to be modernised and the administrative burden reduced, okay? Healthcare sector, same thing. There are lots of new opportunities, but there are an awful lot of things to think about. In terms of things becoming streamlined and more efficient and safer and more person-centric. And how, for example, we can save government's money by shifting funding from treatment to prevention. How can you be more responsible for your own health? So, of course, if you want to modernise, you've got to have the chance to experiment. That's tricky, governments and local authorities. So we are going to explore in this session how digitalisation and how digitisation and how availability of data can impact the quality of public administrations and healthcare and policy-making capabilities. I wanted to just say one thing, one quote, which I quite like, and it's this from, who knows Martha Lane Fox? Do you know her? She was one of the absolute forerunners before the big .com poof. No? Lastminute.com. Has anybody ever booked a holiday or a hotel on lastminute.com? So you know Martha Lane Fox. She's a powerhouse in the digital domain, an absolute powerhouse. And she sold that, and she is one of the pioneers and the founders of, you should have a look at it, something called .everyone. And if you go online, she says, she explains the aim. It's an independent think tank. And she says it's as follows. We want industry to build technology that considers its impact on society. We want the public to have a greater voice in shaping technologies, and we want policymakers to make informed and responsible decisions about the way we use technology. And her view is, there's all sorts of e-commerce going on, but where is the actual value beyond that, where things are going for the citizen? So let me get you a bit busy before I invite the first speaker to the stage. We're going to do a poll. Just hands up if you've been using Slido and you can actually use it in this room so that we can have more than one person and a chicken taking part. Okay, so pretty much that row. Oh, and a bit of that row. Okay, well, we'll do the poll anyway, and maybe you can raise your hands if you're not actually using Slido. Do we have a question coming up? There you go. So, since digital technologies are evolving rapidly, is there still a need for EU-level public investment in R&D and I? For digital transformation of citizen-oriented public services. So, is it the market and the private sector who've got to supply the required products and services? So, forget public intervention. No. Is it really an issue for local and national governments? So, no need for EU intervention. EU intervention is essential in addition to private and national actions to ensure compatible approaches and scalable markets across Europe. I think you are probably under duress to answer this correctly, given how much the issue of collaboration across all levels of governance comes up. But, you know, I'm happy to see. So, have we got any? Are you voting? Think about it, because our MEP, our lovely MEP who is here, is going to comment at the end. Okay? So think about that. Is it the market, private sector, local and national government, EU, but alongside all those various stakeholders? Okay, so I'm going to invite our speakers in, and then I'm going to invite the first of them to give you an opening speech. So please come and join me here. Give a warm welcome to Professor Dr. Christian Wopen, who is Chair of the European Group on Ethics in Science and Technologies. If you want to join me first, please. You were so keen to come out of the starting blocks there. I love that. That was so delightful. You stood up, oh, no, it's not me, and I sat down. Okay, we've got quite a nice balanced panel. Francesca Bria, who is Chief Technology and Digital Innovation Officer at Barcelona City Council. Welcome, please. A warm welcome to this lovely lady. We now have Jonas Onlund. He is Programme Leader Digital Transformation at the City of Eindhoven. Welcome to you, sir. You may also give him a lovely warm round of applause. I like making you clap. We also have Professor Deepak Kalra, who is President of the European Institute for Innovation
of soft and hard law instruments to improve the availability of data generated in the context of publicly funded research. As part of the package, the 2012 recommendation on member states on access to and preservation of scientific information has been revised to enhance access to and reuse of publicly funded research data. So in this context, it's important to mention that there was the official launch of the European Open Science Cloud, the EOSC, which took place in Vienna here on the 23rd of November, so a week ago. In that event, the EOSC portal was also launched. It will allow millions of researchers and science professionals to store, manage, analyze, and reuse vast amounts of research data in a trusted environment. Services such as data archiving, educational and training material, and a range of data processing options are already available through the portal, and in future, it will also comprise high-level functionalities and scientific data and data analysis services, and hopefully also including commercial services. The portal provides data-related services and tools, and therefore nicely complements our other open data initiatives, such as the European Data Portal. The EOSC will be made more inclusive, and its user base will be widened to the public and private sector. Synergies with the European Data Portal, which has just celebrated its 3rd birthday, will help to unlock the potential of the data economy. Finally, the data package aims to foster data trading amongst companies on the basis of contractual agreements. The Commission has published principles for fair contractual practices on data sharing, both for business to business and business to government situations, in particular when contracting on the use of data coming from connected objects, IoT objects. Additionally, we published a guidance document with some core elements that companies should bear in mind when considering sharing part of their data with other companies and the public sector. The guidance will be developed with the help of a support centre for data sharing, which will become operational in the first half of 2019. For data sharing in a business-to-government situation, we have just started discussions last week with experts from business and public administrations in a high-level expert group. One use case is the improvement of official statistics through analysis of mobile phone movement patterns or supermarket checkout data. But data sharing will also require strong practical measures, providing tangible tools and platforms for sharing. To this end, the Commission has already started to support the practical work to set up data platforms for closed, i.e. not open, data. The current Horizon 2020 work programme foresees two waves of funding with a total of €61 million for projects to set up, populate and operate such data platforms. There will be two types of platforms. Firstly, personal data platforms for trusted and secure sharing of personal data in full compliance of GDPR and other prevailing legislation, and empowering the data subjects, giving them control of the use of their data. The second is the industrial data platforms for trusted and secure trading and sharing of proprietary, industrial and commercial data. This type of data has not been widely traded to date due to issues of trust, interoperability and technical challenges. These data platforms are expected to demonstrate the power of the free exchange and trade of data assets in a number of domains. The work on data sharing platforms will be scaled up and rolled out further in the Digital Europe programme with a special focus on data for artificial intelligence. The data platforms will therefore bridge to the future programmes, which you've been hearing about the last couple of days, Digital Europe programme and Horizon Europe.
You never know where the innovation is going to come from.
We have specific objectives in Horizon 2020 about focus and pace as well, about the speed of bringing solutions to the market, generating that economic benefit and the growth and the jobs.
The European funding was absolutely essential for this project because it's a groundbreaking project, it's blue sky research, and that would not have been possible without European funding.
We want to include all the kids that normally are excluded, and we want to empower them to become creators instead of just being consumers. And this award allows us to reach more kids. It's a marketing instrument for us.
We're in the second year of a 3-year project, and now is the time to really start thinking about how we take this forward beyond the end of a project in a year's time. You know, do we present it forward commercially? Do we charge people for it? Do we use crowdfunding? Is it a social benefit?
First of all, internet, that's for sure. The Internet of Things, collaboration on internet, working on internet, that's for sure, but also the new frontiers of science. So it's a long list, but I would say all with the same fil rouge, which is European innovation and really leading in the world. The ICT event is great. 6,000 people. You know, more than 5 million people in Twitter follow the event. It's great, it's important because it's the agora where everyone meets, exchanges ideas, and also this great enthusiasm and participation is contagious because, I mean, more you see, more you want to be part of it. So it's really a great event.
I think this is a very interesting event. You get to see a lot of people that bring very different perspectives and they look at what you're doing in a critical way, and they look at it probably very differently than what you thought originally, and it's very, very nice to have the exchange.
The symbol is located somewhere over here.
You never know where the innovation is going to come from.
We have specific objectives in Horizon 2020 about focus and pace as well, about the speed of bringing solutions to the market, generating that economic benefit and the growth and the jobs.
The European funding was absolutely essential for this project because it's a groundbreaking project, it's blue sky research, and that would not have been possible without European funding.
We want to include all the kids that normally are excluded, and we want to empower them to become creators instead of just being consumers. And this award allows us to reach more kids. It's a marketing instrument for us.
We're in the second year of a 3-year project, and now is the time to really start thinking about how we take this forward beyond the end of a project in a year's time. You know, do we present it forward commercially? Do we charge people for it? Do we use crowdfunding? Is it a social benefit?
First of all, internet, that's for sure. The Internet of Things, collaboration on internet, working on internet, that's for sure, but also the new frontiers of science. So it's a long list, but I would say all with the same fil rouge, which is European innovation and really leading in the world. The ICT event is great. 6,000 people. You know, more than 5 million people in Twitter follow the event. It's great, it's important because it's the agora where everyone meets, exchanges ideas, and also this great enthusiasm and participation is contagious because, I mean, more you see, more you want to be part of it. So it's really a great event.
I think this is a very interesting event. You get to see a lot of people that bring very different perspectives, and they look at what you're doing in a critical way, and they look at it probably very differently than what you thought originally, and it's very, very nice to have the exchange.
The symbol is located somewhere over here.
You never know where the innovation is going to come from.
We have specific objectives in Horizon 2020 about focus and pace as well, about the speed of bringing solutions to the market, generating that economic benefit and the growth and the jobs.
The European funding was absolutely essential for this project because it's a groundbreaking project, it's blue sky research, and that would not have been possible without European funding.
We want to include all the kids that normally are excluded, and we want to empower them to become creators instead of just being consumers. And this award allows us to reach more kids. It's a marketing instrument for us.
We're in the second year of a 3-year project, and now is the time to really start thinking about how we take this forward beyond the end of a project in a year's time. You know, do we present it forward commercially? Do we charge people for it? Do we use crowdfunding? Is it a social benefit?
First of all, internet, that's for sure. The Internet of Things, collaboration on internet, working on internet, that's for sure, but also the new frontiers of science. So it's a long list, but I would say all with the same fil rouge, which is European innovation and really leading in the world. The ICT event is great. 6,000 people. You know, more than 5 million people in Twitter follow the event. It's great, it's important because it's the agora where everyone meets, exchanges ideas, and also this great enthusiasm and participation is contagious because, I mean, more you see, more you want to be part of it. So it's really a great event.
I think this is a very interesting event. You get to see a lot of people that bring very different perspectives.
If all stakeholders involved in touching health data collaborate, and that is very much the mission that we have been embarking on in our institute, but we see this very much as the success factors that all stakeholders are sharing. The ability to trust data and for citizens to trust us using the data, data quality and interoperability, and then finally and importantly, how can we demonstrate that we are able to deliver value to all those stakeholders so they remain motivated to cooperate and that the citizen benefits from that holistic data ecosystem. Mm-hmm. That's our mission, that's our challenge. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you make a very valuable point there because at the very end of the last session, we were talking about demand, you know, people demanding certain things for themselves. And part of it ties to what you say. We have to demonstrate that value if we want to actually get that going. But it's an exponentially complex ecosystem to create this in the health arena, I think, so that you get people taking care of themselves and you get, because there's a whole cycle of learning. I mean, do you see it happening, that shift?
Regrettably slowly, but
okay.
Importantly, yes. So it's not just that we have existing silos and legacies. What we have is a mixture of perverse incentives that don't encourage
perverse incentives.
Perverse incentives, right. Including financial models, but right. Historic models and reward models, organizational models, workflows, that all act as barriers. Mm-hmm. So what we have to do is to find the change agents who will be able to reorchestrate those information flows, those money flows, and they then can catalyze the disruption we need. And I used to think it could be driven from my own professional background, the healthcare professionals. I used to think it could be driven by politicians and decision makers, but I've increasingly realized the actor who is the most potent disruptor is the citizen. Okay, I'm just absorbing, thinking about that. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I will now come to you, please, Maria. Yeah? Would you like to, you may deliver from wherever you would like. You come here. Makes you feel a bit, the end of the day, doesn't it? It's more helpful to do it from there. Makes you feel a bit more.
Stand up and breathe.
Yes, go for it. Thank you very much.
Sure. Let's go this way.
So we have Maria Palombini.
Yes. So hello, everyone. I'm delighted to be here. So I represent the IEEE, the Institute for Electronic and Electrical Engineers, and I'm actually with the Standards Association. My work is actually in emerging technologies and makes me really fortunate because I work with individuals on the stage or people like you who really have passion about driving adoption to find a solution to a problem. So basically, just to show you some of the work we have done, the mission of the IEEE is advancing technology for humanity, which means for us, we develop standards that either empowers or enhances or protects the end user. So in health, we look at patients. In the world of digital citizen is how do we enable personal data agency. So the standards that we have here all lean to enabling smart city, but around the idea of empowering the digital citizen. So these are standards that we actually have in action. At any given point, we have 600 standards working groups across multiple engineering disciplines, and we actually have over 1,000 technical standards in our library. But most of my work is in life science. And really, the interesting thing here, I think pictures say 1,000 words, especially whether regardless you're in a social healthcare system or a privatized healthcare system, is the patient is operating blind in the healthcare system. Right? It's besides the chaos, or what I like to call the data swamp of health data, right? We have a problem where we are telling patients to manage their health care, right? Go to your doctor, go visit more, take on your health care, but yet we don't talk about that from a data perspective. We're not telling them own your data, right? Who is better incentivized than a patient to manage their data, to make sure that information's going from specialist to hospital to lab? We don't really talk about that, and it's really, really important because the lack of handling of data does have, unfortunately, consequences of death. People die from mistakes like that, a simple mishandling of data. And so we look at and we work with actually pharma companies, health companies, patient advocacy groups, technologists. We're working with them to figure out how we can empower the patient to take this on. And ultimately, where we would like to get to, with a happy face, and it's not me, by the way, is how do we create a system where the data is being shared, right? And we enable not only to feed it into the system, right, for better clinical research or for precision medicine, and the reason why I have it as a question mark, because I think until we unlock the silos of data, we really don't know what precision medicine might look like. That's my opinion, of course. And then ultimately, how do we increase better care? But in this perfect picture, which is very idealistic, we are taking a lot of things under assumptions that I want to bring to your attention. So number one, we're 30 years post the internet, and there's people still without access to the internet, right? 48% of the world's population still is unconnected. So how does a solution like this transcend to them? This is challenge number one we look at standards. We also talk about digital literacy. What does it mean, right, to manage your data? There's people today who still don't have an email account, right? They don't understand the internet, and there's doctors still without websites. So how do we also educate patients on that? And finally, we also, from a technical point of view, have to figure out how all these things are going to work, right? We have sensors on us, in us, around us, but we want them all to work together. So this is the work that we do at the IEEE SA. I'm very passionate because I tap the passion of others when I talk about this, and I channel it, I think. But if all our programs, I want to tell all of you, are open and inclusive, and if you're interested, we could talk about it later to become part of the work that we do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And again, big words. They're actually words that the EU has got in a few of the campaigns they're running at the moment. Empowers, enhances, protects. minutes. But I mean, really compelling statistic there. 48% of the world population not connected to the internet, and it's absolutely critical in the domains that we're talking about here. That's a very sobering statistic there. So I'm now going to move, I think I'm being a little bit, I think to Francesca, if I may. Sure. Francesca Bria from Barcelona City Council. Let's have your opening statement, please. Thank you.
Thank you. So there is no digital revolution without a democratic revolution. And because we do have a lack of trust in the system, which is mainly a crisis of political representation, we need to start from redefining the relationship between citizens and government and make sure that we can have governments that are more open, more transparent, and more collaborative. So I will show you in my little time what we're doing in Barcelona to do that and really create a digital democracy from the ground up, where we devolve more power to the citizens and make them involved in the decision-making process. So we created an ethical standards for digital transformation. It's an ethical digital policy framework or toolkit. It's a free software platform, so every city can reuse it.
You can slow down. I will even give you 35 more seconds. Go for it. Otherwise, they'll miss everything you say and they won't thank me for it.
But you pressure me to be fast.
I'm not. You're good.
I can be very fast.
No,
okay.
Even if you take a minute more, they need to hear what you're saying.
So we have ethical digital policy toolkit. It's a free software platform, so every city in the world can take it, reuse it, and apply it to their own needs. What it is we created standards to make sure that open digitalization happens in a way that governments can be more agile, more transparent, and have at the core digital rights of citizens. So we have a ethical data management plan. We are shifting technology to the use of open source. We mandate open data by default, but also we look at encryption as a human right and standards for data portability and data protection of citizens. And so we also improve in procurement so that government can do procurement online and open it up to small companies, SMEs, and startups that can participate in contracts. And we are adding clauses in government contracts that talk about data sovereignty. What means is that whoever wins the bid has to transfer back the data in machine-readable format to the city hall, because this data is a common good and belongs to all citizens. So this is online, is amazing. I'm very excited because other cities are picking it up, reuse it. It's linked to GitHub, so anybody can contribute. At the core of this digital ethical policy toolkit, there is democracy and participatory democracy of citizens. So what Barcelona is doing is that we're integrating collective intelligence of citizens in the decision-making process. We have a government department that works on digital rights and also citizen engagement. We are not doing a Facebook democracy. This is a hybrid process of online democracy and offline democracy in neighborhoods involving citizens, and then citizens can participate, propose ideas, vote on their proposals, sign petitions with a crypto ledger, actually, anonymously, and participate in government planning. 70% of the proposals that we run in government were proposed directly from citizens. 400,000 citizens participated in writing the agenda of the city of Barcelona. This is usually a bureaucratic, very boring task that happens under closed door and doesn't involve the people. So we're really opening up participation. Now we have 20 participatory processes running on parallel on mobility, on culture, on education, and we're integrating the feedback of citizens in the way we take policy decisions. And this is my final slide. To make all these real, citizens are creating networks of cities that are protecting digital rights. So together with New York, Barcelona, and Amsterdam, we launched this coalition at the Smart City Expo in Barcelona. Now we have many more cities that want to join it. And we have 5 principles. You can read them. They're very clear. The mandate for access to the internet as a human right, mandate for data sovereignty, digital skills and digital education. And it's very important that cities are doing concrete actions to protect the digital rights of citizens, and that any city that want to become digital has to do it from the ground up, putting digital rights at the core. This is spreading, the UN Habitat is behind, and we're adding cities every day. So if you're a city and you want to join protecting the digital rights of citizens, please write to us and be part of this coalition. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I love that. I love the way you said, I'm so excited about this. Raise your hand if you didn't think she was excited about it. There you go. One question I would like to ask you, and it is, and I can see why you're excited, just out of interest, when you're talking about these areas where you have, really had this participatory democracy in creating a city that people want to live in, has there been any stats done on the age groups that have been most responsive?
Absolutely. Actually, this surprised me very much because I thought this is for digital natives and people that use technology, but not at all. We have many people from above 65 years old that are participating.
Okay.
And the reason is that, first of all, it's a hybrid. It's not only online. We go in the neighborhood,
you said you go
we
out.
do citizen assemblies, we involve citizens, and the most important thing is that we involve on things that matter to them. Healthcare, affordable housing, climate change fight, sustainable mobility.
Culture,
These are things that matter to people,
Okay.
and that's why they participate, because they want to have an impact in creating a better city, more inclusive, more democratic, and more sustainable. So this is the key.
And given what we've said, the speed of things, I guess, because so much thus far, what I have seized from this conference is how many questions that you all need to ask. All of you stakeholders need to be consistently asking questions to keep on top of the speed of change. What are we looking at from an ethical point of view, from an accessibility, from a demand point of view? So I guess when we're talking ethical standards, it's going to be the same for you, because the faster things go, the more careful you need to be, and you need to be on top of those standards,
On
don't
top,
you?
but I think the important thing is that the standards are not a top-down process. Actually, we collaborate with a lot of standard bodies, but this is also about policy making, and it should happen in a democratic and accountable way. And also, you have to want to give a direction to the technological revolution. The technological revolution is not something deterministic. It's not a process that will just happen. It's about what kind of cities we want to live in, what kind of government we want, what social and economic model we want, and we can do it if we define ethical digital framework or standards, as also they're doing on AI, and we make sure that the technological revolution serves the many, all of us.
Absolutely,
I mean,
and
inclusive.
I think, and again, you do echo what the CEO of Digital Europe was saying at the beginning. We need to figure out what we want, state it. What's our intent? What do we want? Yes, please take a.
It's not according to the plan, but
no. Plan off script. We don't care. Off piece.
From the ethical point of view, not the standards change, but the way you translate the standards into everyday practice. And I think that's an important thing, because we have our standards in the Charter of Fundamental Rights. We don't want to change solidarity, but we have to think what digital transformation does to solidarity, and how do we translate it into the societal life. And so transparency, of course, is a great example, because transparency is not a value in itself. If you're transparent and nobody understands, transparency just brings nothing. So it has to be explainable, it has to be explicable, and so on. And that's why I stressed that the principles and the standards remain the same, and everything under this has to relate to them.
Thank you very much. Absolutely, yes. Very well explained. So, and very important to clarify that. So let's go from Barcelona to Eindhoven. Be interesting to see. There's a comparison there. Jonas Onland, digital transformation. Off you go. The time is yours, sir. I'm very curious to see how you're doing things in your neck of the woods. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Working in Eindhoven is like a candy store. The ecosystem is vibrant with the industry, technical university, so all the technology is there. The big question is how. Within that city, in the city, we closely work together with our national government, and we really need them. We're also part of the Urban Agenda, the Digital Transition Partnership, and what we're seeing, we see a lot of cities and a lot of challenges that we as cities face are a bit similar. So it's almost like human behavior, basically. And the question is how to become future-proof in an era of digital disruption, basically, with all these new technologies. And we see three main problems occur almost in every city. One, of course, the digital disruption. So that's the last 3 days, what you see, what is upon us, it's huge. The second part is the art of implementation. New discoveries aren't innovations until you apply them. So how are we going to cope with that? And one of the things I really see also on a national level, that we have the not invented by me syndrome. So everybody's reinventing the wheel. So let's learn from each other and have impact. And maybe the biggest challenge is, I just got it off, my bad, is this problem. If you looking at the Netherlands, we have like 5,000 institutions, billions a year on IT investment, almost 750,000 people working in government, thousands of products. I couldn't even count how many. And a lot of times people say the citizen is lost, but that's not the case. We are lost, not the citizens. So we need to adjust and to adapt and make it human-centered. And the question is how to do that. So what's the problem? In my opinion, there's no problem. It's just the way we organize it. It needs a different perspective. We need to look at it from a different perspective and start over again. To have impact, not only in the Netherlands, but look at it from a broader perspective for all European citizens. So what we did, we started at our moonshot and we thought, okay, what's the purpose where we want to go? Not from a technical perspective, but from the perspective of a human. And we looked, of course, at the Talent Declaration on e-government. And one of the things, if you translate it into human language instead of principles, we came to a few sentences. You can, where and wherever you want, take care of the things in your life. By your phone, it's in your pocket. So why can we make it human-centered? You decide to share your data with. It's really important. It's the other way around. It's not the right to be forgotten. It's the right to have always insight in your information. It should be plug and play. It's inclusive, so it's easy for other cities to join. So the example of Barcelona is perfect. Why should we build building blocks that are already there? And if you use that technology, then people get time again to live their life and have real contact. But it's challenging. So for us, there are a few steps that you really need to take, and we're in the middle of the process. And I must say, it's really tough. How to become future-proof? Step one: if I look at the Netherlands, the awareness of the digital transformation and the impact, it's not always people are not aware. So step one is how can we make citizens, but also politicians, aware of what's happening. Then the second part, and that's the funny part, always when we say that you need leadership, especially digital leadership. If you don't understand the technology, how can you implement it, and how can you oversee the consequences? And people say, no, we got leadership and we know what digital is, but if you start talking about blockchain, it's not already there. Now work on the moonshot and choose your pipe cleaning projects. We have one project on my app, and it's the first time we showed that to our board. They stated, okay, when is it ready? And what's the impact on our organization? And that generates a promise, that generates that moonshot that people want. And last but not least, develop a roadmap with your ecosystem. It's really important. But it's also difficult because you speak a different language with the industry, with the government, and that takes time. So, thank you.
Thank you. Well, that was interesting what you said, that it's not. It's this, that actually the citizen is the one much more savvy than we are. We're the ones playing catch up. We're the ones who have to work with that. That's very interesting. Was that the quote you said? New discoveries aren't innovations until we apply them. Was that your? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Great.
No, so, you mean
your quote? What you? Yeah, that was a nice.
Yeah, that was the quote. When we visited Stanford, that's one of their quotes in the US.
Okay.
Where they said that's the difference between success and a good idea.
Okay.
So the lessons which you can learn from Silicon Valley, because everybody's critical, of course, but the way they implement new technologies and doing that from a human perspective, mainly focused on profit. That's something you can discuss about, but how they do it is very interesting to see. Mm-hmm. It's almost a science. So.
Okay. All right, we'll come back. We will have time. So we have Mustafa Bouhari. The time is yours. Last on stage, last to speak. I'm sorry, sir, but last saved for best, right? You can give him a nice round of applause, please, just to make him feel warm and fuzzy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Katrina. I have a small story to tell and a small passage to pass, both possibly replying to one question, which is how we can take up the challenges raised by the digital citizen and turn them into opportunities. We believe that smart living, and in particular smart living for aging well, could be a good example that offers many opportunities. So let's go back to 2015, when the European Commission wanted a new innovation approach to stimulate the IoT in Europe. And a group of industry and academic stakeholders were invited to sit around the same table and discuss this subject. That was the start of the Alliance for Internet of Things Innovation, the AOTI, and since then it became an independent structure, hopefully an alliance listened to and consulted. So back to 2015, IoT members, organized in relevant working groups, published a set of recommendation reports to support the European calls for large-scale pilots, covering a significant range of verticals, including the smart living environment for aging well. We all agree there are more and more social and economic implications of an aging population in Europe, and we need to find ways to face the challenges related to the aging well and try to turn them into opportunities. So we had the privilege, together with my fellow colleagues from the Work Group 5, a group that is looking in its technology chapter at how IoT can support elderly people in staying active, independent, and out of institutional care settings. We had the privilege to compile the recommendation for the Smart Living LSP project. And after the call process, ActiveAge project was born, and today this project is in progress of being deployed in 9 sites within 7 European countries. And it will last until 2020. We expect it to be sustainable. We expect it to support job creation. And we expect, above all, ActiveAge to improve our quality of life as a digital citizen. There are still many challenges. I think that we'll certainly discuss some of them during the rest of the panel. And before I finish my introduction, just wanted to pass a message. And here allow me to wear my technology provider hat and pass this simple message. We believe that technology is ready today to support the digital citizen. And just from the hardware standpoint, when you see that the connected object rely on the same 5 components, because it needs to sense, to process, to connect, to do it preferably in security and with the least power consumption possible, especially with the connected devices on battery, these 5 functionalities are served by components that do not vary that much from one use case another and from one vertical another. So this is for us as technology provider a great opportunity to scale up, because even though at the beginning the volumes are small for every single use case, the fact that they are served by almost the same type of hardware technology is a scale-up opportunity that is great for us. So it does not constitute, according to me, an obstacle to the deployment of the appropriate services. I believe the obstacles, if they are still remaining, are elsewhere, and we'll again certainly tackle some of them during our discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Now, just because I am, and I have to say, absolutely, as we were saying, chuckling, there was such rigorous organisation of this session, and I mean that in a very praiseworthy way from the side of the European Commission, but I'm going to relax things a little bit, because if I keep on going, zhong, dong, 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 we're going to all explode. So what I would like to say is there are a few areas that I'm going to throw out there that are areas that we said we'd like to discuss. I don't mind who answers them. Let's and then, of course, you are welcome to ask your questions, but I would like to come back to you and just really tiny, you can stay where you are. What have you heard? I mean, we've heard all sorts of things from the perspectives of member states. We've heard all sorts of things from healthcare. Stuff is moving. There are some obstacles. You know, you represent the citizens of Europe. Do you think we're serving them well at the moment from the European framework being visionary point of view? Or where would you like to see a little bit more done?
Well, we are all Europeans, but we are not perfect. And I suppose that we have to work together. It is important. Yes, a little bit closer. Well, we are all Europeans, we are not perfect, but I'm quite sure that we are all agreeing in this room that we have to work together, we have to work jointly at the EU level, at the member state level. But allow me to say a few things on this issue, because I think that we are having to overcome a lot of obstacles, starting with motivating ecosystems in regions and cities. It is important because we are a mature market. We are not an emerging market, and we have to motivate regions and cities in order to innovate. And I would like to give you some 5 examples. We have here Barcelona, but we have also to know that there is a catalogue coming from innovation charity of Nesta, based in UK, and it includes 5 cities. These are New York, London, Helsinki, Barcelona, and Amsterdam. And these cities are sharing three elements, 3 parameters that I would like to mention. First of all, they are finding creative ways to effect change outside of the formal policy arena. They are not something like traditional cities. Secondly, they are being opened by default. And third, they are acting more than like entrepreneurs than bureaucrats. And this is important to know. We have to give the power to the people to go ahead to this digital period, for me.
Okay, they're acting more like entrepreneurs than bureaucrats, you said. Okay, I like that. So let me just sort of come back on a couple of issues that I heard that I think are important. One of them was scale up. You know, what are the challenges to scale up, particularly perhaps in the area of e-health, e-government? That's interesting. How do we overcome barriers generally? But it's also how do we promote this demand side from the side of the citizen? And I'll come back to you, I think, Deepak, because I sort of was reflecting when you were talking about, was it the change makers or the game changers? You were thinking who they were, and you really did come down to the citizen. So you think that there is that demand there? You think that they are really, really powerful part of that shift that you're seeing in healthcare, or you hope to see?
I think effectively what I'm really keen on is bottom-up change. One of the privileges I've had is to work across multiple I've been able to work across multiple stakeholder groups over my career, but increasing numbers in recent years. So when I engage with pharma, when I engage with healthcare providers, clinicians, when I engage with health insurers, I see them showing a recognition of how they can work together better, how they want to work together better, the challenges I described around engaging society in trusting diverse uses of data, etc., can only happen if they work together. But they are inside large organizations that are treacle-like in change. So when you speak to individuals at the right level, they get it. But they don't necessarily have a budget in their organization to behave smarter, to behave differently. They are sitting inside restrictive environments. So how do we help the people inside those various professions to change? We need a catalyst that is disruptive. And the trouble is that when you go to the very top, no disrespect to MEPs and MPs, but in general, unfortunately, I've not seen the political layer being able to really unlock the levers of change. So my feeling is that these very, very honorable and charismatic and visionary people in various professional silos who are willing to break down the silos, they need help. So almost it's a cry to society to say, we're ready for change, it's change that you want happening, but we need you to help us make that change. Don't be passive, complaining that the systems are not working for you.
Be part
Come
of
and
making
help
that
us change
system
them,
change.
because you'll find willing souls on the inside as well. That's what I've come across.
What do you think about? What's your thoughts about that, and particularly perhaps because that's where we started in the healthcare domain? Do you feel that's where it is, that it's very, very tricky to unlock it, politically, and that's where the real push comes?
Well, what I'm always thinking here is that I almost agree to everything, but that there is another layer, because there is not the citizen or the patient. We have very informed ones, building platforms like the patients like me are doing research, citizen science, being active, taking care of their own health and their own health data and so on, building up individual health records and so on. But there are also a lot of people going into the hospital, being ill, and they don't want to be empowered. They want to be advised. They want to tell me, please, doctor, what shall I do? And they don't take care of anything what we are talking about here on the panel. And there are a lot of people out there thinking and feeling this way and perceiving healthcare this way. So there are those political silos and professional silos, but that's another level than the citizen. So there have to be different translational steps. And let me just finish with saying that I see 4 translational steps. The one is from research to the bedside. The second one from the bedside to healthcare and intersectional healthcare. And the third one from healthcare to society. And then all the way back. Yeah, from society back to healthcare services, to the bedside, and to research as well. Because society should say what is their priority to do research. Is it really our interest to spend billions and billions of money into genomics? Or shall we spend money on epigenomics, metabolomics, psychiatry as well? So there is kind of an imbalance, and there are hype research areas out there, and we are forgetting some areas which are very, very important for the human and societal living as well.
Okay, thank you. Yes, if it's again, I'll try and keep the response, try and keep the snappiness here, but go for it.
So,
yes.
Punchline was, I fully agree with you, and I do remember my time as an inner city general practitioner. There are patients who wanted to engage in discussing how their care should go, and others who said, Dr. Cowrie, you know best. And that's fine, one has to respect that. But actually, even of the people who are not themselves digital health citizens, they are still victims of issues in our health system that fail them. Example, multimorbidity, a growing European challenge, affecting older people more often than younger people, only because you accumulate diseases with age usually. So those people who may not want to be active decision makers for themselves still benefit if we can transform the health system.
Okay. Maria, I wanted to just ask if you wanted to, because, I was saying to you, you were saying, who is encouraging the patient to handle and to manage the big data. This is all about protecting them, empowering them through standards. What's your thoughts about how empowered do they want to be? Where does the responsibility fall?
So a basic question here, does everybody know who is Dr. Google? Right? How many people you have an ailment and run to Google? Or someone in your family who doesn't know how to use the internet goes, do you know what that means? And you go to the internet and say what that means. So patients, whether they realize or don't realize, want to take control of their health care, right? Now, whether Google's a good example where you should do that is another question. But when we really talk about this, I think what I really look at is patients with rare diseases, right? Yeah. Here is a group of people who are, no pun intended, dying for access to a clinical trial, to a cure, right? And because they can't be found or can't find the trial, and they have their data with them, you will see them walking with binders in their hands, and they're full of comorbidities, which people don't even know how to make the connection. This is where, when we look at empowering patients, this is an opportunity of a lifetime for them. And whether you use blockchain or hashgraph or whatever is out there, the technology in itself is not that, I don't want to say complicated, but I don't want to dismiss it. It's what it's compelling us to change and think about. We're really talking about revolutionizing a system that has been built to put the patient at the end of the spectrum. Now we're talking about putting them in the center. And that's going to break a lot of people's revenue model. So the question when we say, what's going to incentivize or what's the hurt point? I think it's when we start talking about changing people's revenue models. The reality is that private businesses or public businesses, whatever it is, have made money from from proprietarizing other people's data. And it's happened, right, in many different ways, but we're going to try to change that. And the idea is not to disintermediate them. It's just to disintermediate a bad behavior. And that's when we talk about ethics, and that's ethical, responsible use of data. We're not trying to shut down businesses, but we're trying to really equalize the market in a way that we kind of forgot about since the dawn of the internet.
But it's interesting you bring up just what you brought at the beginning about, was it rare and complex diseases? Because as you probably rightly know, this is somewhere actually where the EU is using, it's just quite recently launched a platform for precisely the reason you say, where it can actually function very well to see if all these specialists can draw upon the brain power of other specialists in the domain, and obviously the permission has to come from the patient to put the data into the system. But it's a very, very good example in the domain of healthcare where it works well. Just to come away a little bit from healthcare, if I'm trying to pick up some of these key words, this issue of, I'd like to go for scale up, and again, maybe looking on the government side, perhaps from you, where the challenges are for that. Yeah.
So, yeah, I believe if you make the statement that digital citizen, you have, of course, citizen, but you have digital.
Yeah.
And digital is supposedly supported by technology. So the first obstacles to scale up can come also for technology. So I said in my introductory statement that technology is ready, but it's still very fragmented. And this fragmentation of solutions can frighten a little bit the decision makers and the end users. So also it's our job as technology provider to evangelize, to explain, to educate, and to explain the fact that this fragmentation is also an opportunity, even though at midterm it will consolidate. But imagine a hospital that needs to locate oxygen cylinders in medical rooms to choose between Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or long range or cellular connectivity. Of course, he will be advised by some equipment manufacturers, but this is today quite an obstacle, and observe it in the day-to-day job. The other point is that technology and digital and digitization has a cost. And there is a problem of proof of value. Today, a lot of use cases exist already, and we want to push for their digitization. We need to prove that there will be a value to do this. A lot of hospitals are very keen to do proof of concepts. Okay, we will try with maybe a limited budget to implement this digitalization, but when it comes to large scale, then we don't have the budget, and I have no evidence of value. So we need also to bring the proof of value as a first point before explaining how it can be supported by technology.
Can I come to you? Is there anything in that you would echo in terms of the challenges that you might find or the obstacles from a city point of view? Yeah. Yes, absolutely. First Jonas and then please Francesca. Absolutely.
I recognize the discussion, and a lot of times when we start changing, we center the system or the technology as a push, and I really believe in power to the people by looking not at the system as it is, but looking from a greenfield perspective, and looking at the questions which are there, using technology to enable that and start testing it, start really small. I think that's one of the solutions, and start growing and replace the old system. I'm not sure, it's become so complex now in the healthcare system. I've done that for 3 years with all the different suppliers, and so it's really complex, including the value models. So you need to, instead of out of the box, think outside the box. So just think from a greenfield perspective, get the solutions in, get the end users and the citizens in what their question is, and build that solution. And then the group will grow because they want to use the solution instead of they have to, because they're in the system.
Yeah, and I think it echoes a little bit, I cannot quote you on what you were saying, is this or that really useful in research, because I just went, whoa, but I think it does echo what you're saying. We also have to be asking, if you want that use and that demand, then you've got to put people at the front end, because they have to be able to make those choices and be proactive in those decisions.
Exactly, and the second thing you see is what's in it for me. So people, what's the profit that they get from it? The ego is really important, and help from there, and then eventually it will be a success. I'm convinced.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Let me say maybe two things. I think the first problem is that we have been investing much more in technologies for military technologies on one side, or espionage, or technologies for surveillance, and that we have done pretty well. And we've been investing a lot in commercial technologies, so technologies for business. What is lacking is ambitious investment into technology for the civic good, for citizens. So we continue to see that we have a lot of big missions, a lot of big problems that we have to target, from climate change to migration to democracy, which now there is a lack of trust in liberal democracy. We have questions around education and healthcare. So we have massive problems, and we need to invest into solving these problems and mobilizing the collective intelligence of everybody here, citizens, research centers, industry, all of us, in order to target those big problems. So we cannot start from the technology. We need to start from the real problems, and then be ambitious. So government investments, and then get also the private investment that we need. The second thing, which I say from a policy perspective, is a question around democracy. Obviously, I don't think that here, I mean, of course, nice panel, we are pretty relaxed about it. I think that there is an emergency. We are not going to be able to decide. We have to act upon this. I mean, we see how many people are disenfranchised, they feel outside of this system, they don't have trust in the political system. I mean, first of all, in parties, political representation and all of that, but also they don't trust the big corporations. I mean, we also have a crisis of trust there. I mean, they're not going to trust Google to take care of healthcare as they haven't trust Volkswagen for the emission standards. I mean, here we have a crisis of trust. And sometimes, although we should be the one coming first, you know, policies is coming at the very end. But we have to, I mean, for me, we have to put like a powerful alternative, because otherwise we're going to see more of this rise of the populist right-wing nationalist in power, and yeah, I mean, a big challenge for our democracy, right? So I think, I mean, the alternative that we try to put forward from the bottom up, from cities, from citizens, and I believe with you, like a bottom-up movement, is to really put forward participatory alternatives. Engage people meaningfully on things that matter to them, and try to experiment new systems that, of course, are going to have to involve technology, that obviously should be transparent and should be accountable and should put people privacy and data protection at the very core. But I think we basically don't have a choice there.
No, I think, and you are very clear, and I think you speak with great passion and great clarity, and I think I would say, to add an extension, I think where, in a way, the flip side of the opportunity of this is also that when you say we're losing trust in politics and big business, it's in each other. I'm sorry, but for me, the divisions around Trump and Brexit, if I look at those two things and the conversations that I cannot have certain conversations as an English person with certain friends who voted differently. You know, there is a trust with each other. So perhaps actually the flip side of that is that in this participatory democracy, we can certainly start to rebuild that trust in each other, which is fundamental alongside trust in political institutions and trust in big industry. I'm going to hold... No, did you want to come in first? Go ahead.
I just want to say one point. I agree with you completely what you're saying. Just one thing about policy, right? Policy does not like to take risk.
That's it. Great.
Right? So, and what I mean that when we talk about emerging technologies, and this is an area that obviously we focus in, there's a lot of uncertainty around them, whether we're talking about AI for good or we talk about, you know, digital ledger technologies. And this is the role where participating in technical standards really helps, because technical standards will give policymakers that credibility, especially if they're consensus-driven and market-driven. So at IEEE, we do have, you know, a global AI and ethics program. But it's consensus-driven, and there's a market behind it. And then when we talk to policymakers about it, we take the question out, is this real? And this is really important for people who are very passionate about seeing this come through, right? And I think we want policy to make but we also need the industry to sort of help policy along, even if it's from the back door. And this is how and I think technical standards is an area, empowering citizens is an area, but I think it's like we said before, I don't think there's one silver bullet here that's going to fix everything. I think it's a very collaborative approach, and we have to open the doors to everybody.
But I think, I mean, but you echo what, again, Cecilia from Digital Europe was saying on the previous panel about industry literally almost hand-holding policymakers sometimes. You can't expect them to know everything. You need to get in there. So, you know, I'm very into the concrete. When we all say, let's collaborate, what do we actually mean? They need to physically get into the same room, and these conversations need to be happening. That's absolutely critical. Let's just park it for a minute. I don't know if we've got anything on Slido, or if anybody wants to ask a question or make a comment with a raised hand, because it's a lovely small room, and we do have that possibility. Does anybody? Yeah, there's a gentleman there. Let's start with you, sir. Thank you very much. Nice and concise, and please obviously say who you are.
Okay, Matthew Branler from Sintef in Norway.
Oh, and a bit slower.
Okay, I will try.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for your presentations. And my question is and comment is mostly for Francesca Bria. First of all, comment, very impressive what you're doing in Barcelona. It's very nice to see that. And then a question, which is, do you think that the city is the ideal, in a sense, locus for those democratic processes to happen? And if so, why is it? And how do you see that potentially informing other levels of governance, whether it's higher levels or lower levels, at the neighborhood level, for example?
Let's hold that and just see for a minute if there's any other questions. I'm also curious as to not forget the rural areas as well, because, and already we know that just from an internet penetration point of view, but thank you, very interesting question, because for sure cities are the repositories of all of the challenges we face at the moment. Is there any other comment or question? Somebody else raise a hand. No, were you just scratching your head there, the lovely lady there? Oh, no, it's not me. Did anything come in on Slido? Are you not Slido King? You're not Slido King. Who is King of Slido? No? Probably not. Okay, that's fine.
I actually have I know since you are disrupting the panel.
Yeah,
anyway,
great.
I have a question for some of the other panelists.
That's great. Well, can I ask this lovely lady to answer this one, and then you answer? Absolutely. Those are the best panels when you do it yourselves. Yes.
Sure. So thanks for the question. I think one answer is why cities are so important and why maybe they are the place, or they can become a laboratory for democracy and sustainability. I think, first of all, proximity to citizens. I think it's key. And because of the lack of trust in the system, then you go to where your location base really matter and where you live really matter. I think also because cities are close to the challenges that we face, climate change, air quality, mobility, access to housing, affordable housing,
jobs,
healthcare, all of these things. I mean, cities are facing those challenges, but also counter to what states are doing, because we live in a moment where the big questions are not answered by nation states. I mean, starting with migration. I mean, more and more nation states are not giving this kind of answers to citizens, and that's why cities are coming together to solve those challenges. I mean, we see like the coalition of cities to fight climate change is very powerful. I mean, are the mayors that are, going out there and getting the targets and pushing the industry to do that, working with citizens, this is happening. Migration, same thing. Solidarity is happening from the city side, and democratic participation are the cities that are, opening up spaces for democratic participation and for citizens to be involved. So I think we'll see more and more of that. And also, let me say that this can only happen if cities, and in like mayors, of course, but also all the city governments, put themselves into question. I mean, the problem I hear all the time, how can we stimulate the demand, citizens can participate? Actually, I mean, at least in Barcelona, in Catalonia, citizens are very active, but not only there. I mean, citizens are participating a lot, and also they have a lot of the answers to their problems. They know what kind of neighborhood they want. They have the solidarity-based approach to many of the issues. The problem is actually the system. We are resisting a lot. It's not accountable. It's not transparent. I mean, we are putting all the data of how we spend the budget online. You can go there, you can check our salaries, how we spend the budget, what are the priorities. We inform, but also we debate, because then citizens have to understand and interpret this data, and only then they can participate. So it's all a process that I think it requires a lot of political will, and also strength. I mean, you want to have to do it, allocate resources to that, take it seriously. So political participation, it just doesn't happen like that. You have to take it seriously and put it at the core of your policy agenda. More cities are doing that, and I think it's a space to definitely look at. And then, working with member states and scale this up. But I think this is more of a bottom-up approach.
Okay. All right. Did you want to say anything else from the city point of view? No? So go ahead with your question. Thank you.
My question is to the city folk on the panel, if I could put it that way.
To the city folk.
So this is an ICT conference, but in my experience, the critical success factors are almost always human factors. Now, when it comes to the digital empowerment of patients in healthcare, one of the real challenges that I see is that it changes the nature of professionalism, it changes the nature of expertise, because patients then become, ideally, partners in cooperative decision-making. But that does challenge people who have been brought up, trained, and lived a lot of their professional life as the expert.
For sure.
And we certainly see healthcare struggling in that. That's a pain point for, I think, healthcare. The empowered patient is slightly welcomed, but slightly feared. Now, both of these two cities have given me the feeling that they have really embraced their public and brought them into decision-making. So the classical decision makers have had to listen to these other experts. They have empowered. Please, how did you do it? Can healthcare learn from you, is my question.
You want to give an idea, Jonas? Yeah.
One of the examples that we have is Eindhoven is the city of light. When we had to procure basically the light, we did that in a co-creational session. So instead of asking for light, we started a project co-creating it with on 7 spots within the city. To look at the impact of light on a daily life and combining those networks and bringing citizens together, talking about the possibilities of light and what you, by organizing this progress with facilitating this process, basically not organizing it and doing that with a technical university, with the suppliers that eventually one of them was Philips. Start working on that, we created a diversity in the group. Creating diversity is one of the first steps, I think, organizing small events to getting that going. And I fully agree that people really know what they want, they know what their problems are. But then the challenge starts, because then the companies also are organized in a traditional way. So by starting the other way around, you get it going, but that doesn't mean it's an easy path, and we're still in the middle of the process.
Just a few words, and then I'm going to slightly shift direction. Yes, go.
Yeah, very quickly. Well, I think actually the healthcare sector is where we also trying to learn from, because in particular, I think, well, in my work, what we are doing with data, we're doing a lot around the participatory governance of data, because we are trying to create awareness of the importance to unlock public value out of data, but putting, encryption, privacy, and data protection at the core of the system. And not many, the citizens now, this is public debate, they want to avoid manipulation of data and so on, but they are not exposed to this kind of debate. So we're doing a lot of governance, like democratic governance of data, where we involve citizens, we do workshops, focus groups, and we are also creating an infrastructure distributed for data management. But then, of course, we are learning a lot from the healthcare sector, because the type of data are much more sensitive, and you have a broad community with different level of expertise and different type of user needs and so on. So we are also learning, and I think what we're experimenting now, for instance, around sensor data or around participatory democracy data, could be also applied to the healthcare. But I wanted to say just an example about the kind of governance. I think governance is key. How do we do it? For instance, one example is Barcelona has a very ambitious plan to close off, we closed off 16 districts to traffic to fight climate change and improve the air quality. So now the cars can only get around the district, is called super blocks, and basically they cannot enter these blocks, and inside we are growing green space and liberating citizen space to have new activities. So this is a very radical measure. If you start closing districts to city, you change the traffic habits, you change residents' habits, you affect the life of many citizens. So how we have done it is involving urban planners, designers, residents, the business of the areas themselves. It was a conflictual process, so again, it is not easy. It's not something frictionless. You have also to be able to expose to criticism,
but
different
interests.
That's
democracy.
how it works,
That
exactly.
Is, friction
so
is.
you have to accept that,
Yeah.
but then there you're really reconciling this kind of different level of expertise and opening it up to citizens as experts as well, and then having this kind of solution. Sometimes the mayor has to be, okay, this is the future and we want to get there together, and maybe the short-term profit is not the answer, but it's going to be the long-term benefit. So so this kind of processes, I think that can be what you can learn from.
And you say, just to let you know, so I have another question for you, I have another question for you, I have a question coming in from the gentleman on the floor, and I want to come back to the MEP. We've got 10 minutes, so you're going to be nice and concise, ladies and gentlemen, but I think I was going to say something I think just to go back to what you just said, and was it you who's transparency at the beginning? Or was it you who also made a comment on transparency? Yes, you replied on transparency. Well, it doesn't mean anything unless... For me, when you talk about this and when you say it's not frictionless and it is conflictual, as it will be, because we all have opinions, for goodness sake, and it should be. What I think when I think of the word transparency and when people say, oh, we need to communicate more, it's not just about talking more, because as we know, we listen more today to reply rather than to understand. Mine is more interesting. We're not really talking to each other in the right way, which would be to say, like the mayor finally, guys, I'm doing this because I've heard you all, and I know some of you are going to be a bit pissed off when we do this, but I'm going to tell you the reason why we're doing this. And you might find, that a year down the line, actually, you're quite on side with this. So for me, transparency is to be having a more intelligent level of not just telling somebody what's happening, but telling it in a way that makes them feel not disappointed when they don't get what they want. I think that's absolutely key. Can I just turn to the gentleman here, if you can kindly... and then I'm going to ask you a little bit, because I didn't, and it was a question for you, Mustafa, all about, just to come back to the Internet of Things and take it a little bit back into the healthcare with the sensors in things. I'm quite interested on how that might work. But yes, sir, thank you.
I am Marco Alfano from Dublin City University, and in line of what you were just saying, for me, transparency is important, but there is also information, and they are not the same thing. Yeah. Because transparency means that you have, you're accountable, you provide data, maybe you provide data in open format, so open data is very important. But I think the most important point, and I'm glad that the two cities are doing this, is informing the citizens, because they are the main actors of a changing. But the question, how do you inform? Because then they have a choice. They can make for example, to be empowered or no, but they should have the choice they must know that there is an alternative. They must know there are other possibilities. Technology is already there, will improve with the time sooner or later. Is not the most important. Is that citizens must know that they have a choice. So the question is, how can you inform, can you make sure that almost everybody will know about the new possibilities?
Okay, you're going to just because I don't want to make it totally city-centric. If there's something new to add to what you said, but literally a sentence or two on that, because you said you go out to people. I mean, I'm in the informing perspective, but seriously, 3 sentences, guys, if I'm okay to insist.
You need to use multiple channels. So, not only digital is absolutely wrong. I think the digital for us is to give more opportunities to people and then visualize the problem, prioritize things, but you need to go to the neighborhoods. So I think space is very important, because you need to be reaching people of different age, different gender, different race, and different socioeconomic backgrounds.
And you've got different levels of time. Yeah. Some of this about whether or not you want to be empowered is how much bloody time you think you have, if you don't mind me saying. I mean, part of it simply is that. Yes, sir. What would you respond?
I think it's. I fully agree. Use the maximum of the communication channels you have, and we also ask some ethical questions on safety, for example, and what we're doing with the technology, and publish it in the paper. And the interesting thing, there are not always a lot of reactions on that. So the citizen doesn't exist, and you need to do the maximum what you can. And I fully believe that organizing it in the neighborhood in a physical way is one of the best ways.
So I will pick up from, because I'm going to come to you at the end, because I'd like to ask, if there are any other barriers and obstacles in this exchange between citizens and digital that we haven't touched on. So if you can reflect on that. But there was a question for you there, Mustafa, on from a technology standpoint, where we stand with all the sensors in the Internet of Things and how specifically that has an impact in the healthcare sector.
Yeah, thank you, Katrina. So basically, as I anticipated previously, and there was a good comment also from the gentleman there, the technology is there. It addresses most of the sector of healthcare and medicine, whether it is on remote monitoring, and here the technology is mature, on precision medicine for also applying the right treatment to the specific patient, and this is in progress. We have recorded substantial progress there. Artificial intelligence to support decisions and diagnoses. Here also it is in progress with good substantial results. And finally, the privacy and integrity of data. Technology is there. Just think about your credit card or your SIM card. It's the same technology that is applied to the connected objects and to the sensors. We lack here some regulation. I think that the European Commission and also the European Parliament is working on this Cybersecurity Act to regulate a little bit security in Europe. So, to make it short, technology is there. The obstacles are elsewhere, I believe. We talked about proof of value. I think acceptance, especially for elderly people, is very important. We need to help them with user-friendly, smart services that are not intrusive, that are not frightening them. And this is also our job as technology provider, to make it very seamless.
Okay, and also getting into the settings where those elderly people are. Can't just rely on their grandchildren or their parents. The libraries, if they still exist and aren't being shut down like some of them are in the UK. Or, genuinely, it's getting out there to those places. I will come back to you for sure, and we can see, I'm not sure if we can even see if there is an outcome to the poll. But I did want to just check, you've been listening to a lot, if there are some key areas that we've missed in terms of this interesting dynamic between saying, the citizen is demanding, or hang on a minute, are we really giving them that much access? What have we missed in this conversation?
I think there's one aspect, not missing, but rightly we hadn't focused on that because there's not so much time. It's the children. So we're talking about the adults. But if we want to shape our future, we have to focus on the children. And I think two key areas and two key competences are, we have to strengthen, and that's the digital literacy. It's more than digital competencies and knowing how the laptop's working and so on. And digital health literacy. That's something different. So those are the two areas here. And with digital literacy, I also mean digital democratic literacy. Because we are more and more lacking the awareness that pluralism is a value in itself, and that democracy is not having a consensus, apart from a consensus that freedom is key, not health, but freedom. But that pluralistic debate is necessary to secure freedom and frameworks that guarantee freedom. And so this has to start at school. So we have to have reflectiveness, critical awareness. We have to have the ability to listen, not only to listen so that, how can I convince you, but really to listen, to understand. That's the key to migration. Just meet people and listen to them. It can be so interesting to learn how other people live. So I don't have to live necessarily like they do and the other way around. But it's so interesting to see, wow, that's another possibility to value things or to have rituals and so on. And so, I think this is the most important thing, one of the most important things, to engage in school and to convey digital democratic.
But then I've got to ask you, because I'm all about how do you make it happen, if the EU doesn't have really competence in that area, and can be, but has to keep its fingers out, and if the sector itself, from the different moderating I do, sorry if there are teachers in the room, there is the general consensus that it's one of the sectors that's kind of being a bit slow to move, where a bit of disruption might be good. You know, then I would say, okay, well then it's the parents who've got to help the kids with that, but not all of them are empowered to do it. So how do we get the schools to even get that in their curricula and understand how important it is?
It's all of us who are responsible for that, to raise awareness, but Europe can have best practices. They can have models, they can have projects in Horizon 2020, so there are a lot of entrance points where Europe can contribute to that apart from your regulatory frameworks.
Yes. But the irony of that is this is the Europe that doesn't get out there often enough for people to understand what is being done to them and why it has an added value. But that's a whole other conversation over a beer.
There is also a shift. I mean, again, I think cities are, again, doing a lot here. For instance, we do run program on STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and the arts, which is a very important digital humanities, because you need critical thinking and you need to have a broader approach. So I totally agree. It's not just learning how to code. It's really more pedagogical and democratic literacy that you said. And we are creating public fab labs. So, you know, these spaces where you experiment learning by doing and you create new pedagogical tools, working with schools so that they can become this kind of programs part of the curricula of all schools. And this is now happening in Barcelona and Catalonia, and more places are working on that. So it's the education system needs to be changed to open up to this curricula. And I wanted to add, I think this is critical. We haven't mentioned, if you just want to mention also another thing, because she said we need to start from education and the kids are, anyways, they teach a lot to the parents as well. Sure. So, you know, in this space of digital, I think there is this kind of intergenerational knowledge transfer, which is very interesting, where sometimes you start learning a lot from the kids, and of course, parents are learning a lot also culturally. You know, it's a cultural shift, and so there, I think it's a new space to understand how we do it. And then, of course, gender issues that we haven't touched. But again, this is a space where us as politicians as well, like female and so on, we need more women empowerment in technology. If you look at the statistics, is worse than penetration of internet. So there is also something.
That's funny. Somebody's got to tweet that.
Having it more a feminist revolution together with the digital revolution is something really important.
But I think, and also when we talk in education, and actually when we did the word cloud at the beginning of yesterday, that was the key. Education came up. It's a bit like you said when, you know, people, they think they're expert. Oh, we're the experts in healthcare. I think we have a little bit of that. And you said, you know, when you open it up, it's a bit frightening. Sometimes it's a pain in the arse, sometimes it's great, but it's a little bit scary. And it's the same, I think, for teachers. That certainly digital dimension in the education sector is scary. So I don't know if we have, do we get the poll back? Do we see any results? I'm not sure how Slido works. Is anybody doing? Do we see? We do. Okay. Well done. You all get a big gold star. So I said, I mean, don't. That was a loaded question, I think. And you did well in answering. And so go on, put your hand up if you did the 10%. Because I'm curious. No, genuinely. Who put the 10%? Who put the market and private sector? Anyone in this room who wishes to not... They scuffled off. They knew I'd go. Okay, so I give the last word to you. What you've heard, what you didn't say, what you would like to say.
Well, allow me, first of all, to say that I think that everybody here in this room, we can agree that we are not living in an island, even the citizens of the UK. And nothing is perfect, even Barcelona. So we have to start with this. We have to understand that we need a global approach, and we need an EU approach in order to address the issues that we have already mentioned. Starting with EU level, EU is not just funding. Funding MFF 2029 is, as I have already mentioned, 9.2 billion only for digital agenda. And we have also Horizon 2020, we have structural funds in order to complete this funding, and we have also national budgets and private sector to blend a lot of funding to this sector. But it is not the case. The case, first of all, according to my opinion, is how can we have people on board? How can we finally convince people that they are secure, that they can use data, that they can provide data, and they can finally trust the situation that the fourth digital revolution is providing. This is the case for me, and that's why I'm fully in favor of campaigns for raising awareness in order to exchange views with the people. Secondly, I think that we have to have at the institutional level and the EU member states level, at the local level, a more human approach, a more value approach, in order to explain to the people that it's not something that it's out of control. It is something that it's people creating, and it is something that finally creates, it finally leads to our common destiny. Robotic globe is not something that will be imposed to our lives, to our society. So we have to combine, first of all, the contextual intelligence, the knowledge, the mind. Secondly, the emotional intelligence, our feelings. Third, the inspired intelligence, our soul. And of course, we have to be fit, we have to be calm. And then we have to address the challenges. Let's start discussing with the people, with our kids, in schools, in our institutions, and of course, let's approach this kind of challenges at a global level. I insist, and I would like to conclude with this, that the EU must act as an entity in order to secure this kind of new challenges. This is, for me, the main issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for those words. I think also, I mean, from my point of view, and we've covered, I'm not going to do a particular big, well, just to say, I think one of the key things that comes out for me is there really is this push and this pull. There is this, how do you empower people? But I think you're saying they're ready there and waiting. But I also think it's the nuance of who wants to be empowered, to what degree. And all of this requires a great deal of energy to ask the right questions. I mean, this we know. I do think my feeling is that there is an awareness of people that, you know, with the whole digital dimension in terms of their own well-being, them as a citizen, speed is great, access is great, it can put me closer, I can do all sorts of things I couldn't before. But I think there's also perhaps the perception that it's a lot about e-commerce. And can I do my tax return online? But I think some of these benefits in these areas, whether it's learning, whether it's health, whether it's greater intervention on the public service side, having your say in a city, that we still need to get the information out there that is possible. And it's worth you as a person investing in it and asking and being a part of it. And I think that feels like that's where we really do definitely need to be going. But EU stories are great. We need to get more out there. It ain't just about the funding. So I thank you very, very much. Did you learn something in this session? Hands up if you take something away. If these good people really made you think. Good. I'm so, so glad. So, you know me. Tweet something to the wider community. We had some great, great quotes in there. Could you give my lovely, lovely speakers of the hardest slot of the day a very warm round of applause, please? Thank you. Oh, put the Slido back. Yes, why? Is it interesting what's going on? Oh, you want to just have it back? I thought there was a huge change. Just tell me, hands up if you're going to waltz at Vienna City Hall now. Just you? Yeah? Go for it. Have a lovely, lovely time. Wish you a very, very good evening. Don't be late for the plenary tomorrow, please. We have a lot to get through. Don't be late. Queue early. There's security. Okay? Otherwise, you're going to miss your flight back. You're going to miss your train back. Don't be late.